Science!
So they're all trying to figure out, is the universe spinning around us, or are we spinning around the universe? They tell you, we don't know shit. We're looking at a bunch of lights in the goddamn sky. You're gonna tell me that that light and that light, that's 250, 100 trillion light years away? How the fuck did you figure that out?
And well, don't they have an explanation for that shit?
No, exactly. That's what you just said right now. What you just said now is what everyone's natural reaction. Because anytime someone says anything about space, you automatically think, someone figured it out. You don't know the guy's name. You don't know the name of the experiment. You didn't look into it yourself. You just think when someone tells you, how far is the Earth from the sun? They'll say, 93 million miles away. Like you just, everybody relies on someone figured that out and someone double checked it. You're going on what you read. And right now, cosmology, they don't know what the fuck to do. You know what they found out? The cosmic microwave background shows that all the galaxies are on shelves lined up to us. That we're at the fucking center. They don't know what to think about. Yeah, there's a lot of controversy going on about it.
Well, you should see the stars do all sorts of strange motions, but you don't. You only see them make these perfect circles. That tells me that it's the stars that are moving, not the Earth.
The Copernicus principle, the one that we live by, is that we're insignificant, we mean nothing, we're a speck in the universe. That's the heliocentric model, that we go around the sun. The geocentric model means that everything goes around us. That's what this is in the Bible. That's what the first astronomers were saying. Ptolemy was the first one to say, yeah, we are the center. You can tell based on these observations, everything's revolving around us.
Earth is the center of the universe, and we stand still, and the universe spins around us.
The Copernican principle, named after Nicholas Copernicus, states that the Earth is not in any specially favored or central location. Welcome to the principle.
He struggled with this. He didn't know whether to say that the redshift was a velocity indicator, that is, that the galaxies are being stretched apart from us, and that's why the wavelength of that light is being stretched so we see red, or it could be something else, you see. But he was pressured a lot by the Copernican principle to say, well, okay, let's say it's a velocity factor. The redshift is a velocity factor, and yet I'm not quite comfortable with that because that puts us in the center.
Such a condition would imply that we occupy a unique position in the universe, analogous, in a sense, to the ancient conception of a central Earth. This hypothesis cannot be disproved, but it is unwelcome and would only be accepted as a last resort in order to save the phenomena. Therefore, we disregard this possibility. The unwelcome position of a favored location must be avoided at all costs. Such a favored position is intolerable.
Hubble never believed in the expanding universe because he had the wrong value of the Hubble constant.
Hubble constant. The presumed rate at which space is created and galaxies are believed to be moving away from each other in the expanding universe theory.
Now, it's one of the most important numbers in cosmology, because once we know how fast a galaxy a million light years away from us is moving, simple physics to work backwards and figure out how long ago we were together.
But that left the centrality issue unsolved. A new idea would be required.
Friedman came up with the expanding models, which have this kind of paradoxical property that they're spatially homogeneous and isotropic, so everything looks the same everywhere and everything looks the same in every direction everywhere. And therefore, although from your viewpoint it looks as if everything is expanding away from you, from every other galaxy's viewpoint it looks as if everything is expanding away from you.
You can say that they're being expanded because you see their redshift.
People that believe in the expansion of the universe claim that it's like a muffin with raisins embedded.
Exactly as the Copernican principle requires. Imagine a cake in an oven with raisins. As the dough rises, the raisins move apart from each other, just as galaxies would move away from each other on the surface of a balloon.
So if you curve it and you put these galaxies on the surface of that curve and then you expand it.
If you're big enough, that anywhere you look, it's expanding at the same rate from that spot.
Relativity tells us that in the presence of mass and energy, space can curve. Space is dynamical. It can bend, it can expand, it can contract. And one of the great holy grails of cosmology, in fact, the reason I got into cosmology originally as a particle physicist, was to determine which kind of universe we live in. Because the fact that the universe is curved means it can exist in one of three different forms, so-called closed, open, or flat.
The bottom line is experiment. We can simply speculate as much as we want about this great universe of ours, but the bottom line is you have to look at the data. The data shows that the universe seems to be remarkably flat. And how do you get a flat universe from a Big Bang? Well, one possibility is inflation. In fact, it is the simplest way to get a flat universe.
Inflation, the hypothesis that the universe had, at its very beginning, an extremely rapid, exponential expansion that exceeded the limit on the speed of light set by the special theory of relativity, resulting in a space that is flat and homogeneous.
Think of a balloon and put a bug on it. The bug thinks that the balloon is flat because he's very small and the balloon is very big. However, it's a balloon. It is curved. However, it looks flat only because the bug is very small. We are the bugs.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Liftoff.
We choose to go to the moon.
Oh, it's beautiful, Mike. It really is.
Coming on the heels of Hubble's discoveries, observations in the middle part of the 20th century showed that spiral galaxies didn't appear to be obeying the laws of gravity.
Several decades ago, we found a problem so great that it was brushed under the carpet for many a decade. And this is the fact that galaxies spin too fast. We believe in the work of Isaac Newton, at least on planetary scales, but when you apply Newton's laws of motion to the galaxy spins too fast. In fact, 10 times too fast. By rights, the galaxy should fly apart. Therefore, scientists said that we have to have dark matter, a halo of matter that surrounds the galaxy and holds the galaxy together.
Dark matter, hypothesized form of matter introduced to allow conventional theories of gravity to explain the observed anomalies in galaxy rotation and expansion.
I mean, if you're going to use Newton's laws, F equals ma, and you're going to use Einstein's tensor equation, then you better have the matter and energy in the universe to make it work. But it ain't there.
Between 1 and 3% of the universe is all the stuff we can see, and somewhere between 99 and 97% of the universe is stuff we can't see. This dark matter that dominates our galaxy, we think, we're virtually certain now, is made of some new type of elementary particle, different than the stuff that makes you and I out.
And what have they discovered? Absolutely nothing. Zilch.
What is a little bit perturbing is that after 50 years we still haven't found what the dark matter is. But on the other hand, that doesn't mean they're not there, it just means they're harder to find than we thought.
Turns out the gravitational energy of every galaxy moving away from us is 0. And that's strongly suggestive that the universe actually came from nothing. In fact, every measurement we can make about the universe is really consistent with a universe that came from nothing.
Nothing, generally understood as the absence of anything, but sometimes used in modern cosmology to refer to an unseen form of something, virtual particles and the quantum vacuum.
Something from nothing, a key concept in modern cosmology. But this turns out to be a very unusual kind of nothing, since it apparently contains at least 2 somethings, energy and a law of gravity.
Well, yeah, it's a strange time in cosmology. It's an interesting time because we don't understand anything, or rather, we don't understand nothing. Because it turns out nothing is almost everything.
If you understand nothing, you understand everything.
Turns out the dominant stuff in the universe is nothing, and we don't have the slightest understanding of why. Nothing is really not quite nothing. Nothing is really a boiling, bubbling brew of virtual particles that pop in and out of existence in a timescale so short you can't actually see them. Now, you might say, if they exist for a time that's so short you can't even see them, it's like counting angels on the head of a pin. It's like philosophy. It's not like physics. But in fact, while we can't see those virtual particles directly, they do have an impact, an indirect impact on atoms and the structure of atoms in a way that we can actually predict.
So we now realize that nothingness is foamy, is foam created by subatomic particles darting in and out of existence. Well, if subatomic particles can do this, why not universes? We now believe that in the quantum foam, baby universes are constantly appearing. So if I had a super microscope and could look down at the fabric, the instantaneous fabric of space-time itself, I would see a bubble bath with baby universes being formed all the time.
If you have nothingness, quantum fluctuations will always produce something. And when you add gravity in the mix, it's even possible that whole universes could come from nothing.
Dark energy, as we call it, is the greatest mystery in all of creation.
Dark energy, a hypothetical form of energy that allows an accelerated expansion of the universe.
Nobody knows what the dark energy is. There are thousands of people out there trying to work out what the dark energy is.
What they do is they have to invent it now. And if you've ever read the science magazines, they say, well, there's dark energy and dark matter out there, and they constitute 96% of our universe. The reason they say that is because they need it. It's not going to work. Their Big Bang universe is not going to work without that matter and energy.
The necessity of adding unobserved entities such as dark matter and dark energy to the Big Bang theory might be a sign that there is something wrong in the fundamental assumptions.
There is a crisis in cosmology.
Because the quantum field theory, it says there's this vast amount of energy in the quantum vacuum. If you do a simple-minded application of that to general relativity, it tells you the universe should be accelerating an incredible number of orders of magnitudes faster than it is.
Usually in science, if we're off by a factor of 2 or a factor of 10, we call that horrible. We say something's wrong with the theory. We're off by a factor of 10. However, in cosmology, we're off by a factor of 10 to the 120. That is 1 with 120 zeros after it. This is the largest mismatch between theory and experiment in the history of science.
Recently, some theorists have proposed that the need for dark energy can be dispensed with if we dispense with the Copernican principle itself.
There's an important point here, because if you then said, okay, let's stop here for a minute, and let's suppose dark energy doesn't exist. Now, the raw data is correct. It's what we observe. But let's just change the model a bit. Let's say, okay, let's suppose for a minute that the universe is not homogeneous.
Or, to put it another way, let's suppose the universe does not follow the Copernican principle after all.
Let's see if we can fit exactly the same data with no dark energy. And the answer is yes, you can.
If we assume that Earth is in a special position, near the center of a local void, we can account for all observations without the necessity of dark energy.
This is using a description of the universe that has us somewhere near the local center, a spherically symmetric universe. But when you apply that type of a model, it actually does fit the data without dark energy.
What I'm saying is that is a possible alternative which needs to be looked at.
Among the recent large-scale surveys of our universe, the Sloan Digital Sky survey has given us our most complete look to date at the distribution of galaxies in the sky. Professor John Hartnett has researched these galaxy distributions and has discovered evidence of non-Copernican periodic structure in the galaxy distributions.
We looked at of the order upward of over 400,000 galaxies, and sort of posed the question, well, how are these things arranged in the sky? These are three-dimensional map, and had a look at whether or not there was any structure in that. To my surprise, the mathematics bore out, and there is some very unusual structure. Now, if you look at a picture of this map, when I first saw that, it looked to me like there was like concentric shells, as if the galaxies preferred to lie at some periodic spacing out from the Earth. This is sort of like saying that our galaxy is somewhere near the center of the universe, and when you look at the galaxies arrayed all around us, they're on sort of like giant shells. They prefer to lie on these concentric shells spaced out by around about 250 million light-year separation.
One of the chief difficulties faced by cosmologists is that as we look out at the cosmos, our view is partially blocked by our own Milky Way galaxy. We are able to see only about a quarter of the whole sky. As we pull up from Earth, we see the two pie-shaped wedges which constitute the data of the Sloan Digital Sky survey. Each one of these dots represents an entire galaxy, containing on average hundreds of billions of stars, giving us a visual indication of just how astonishingly vast our cosmos actually is. As we look down upon this two-dimensional slice of the sky, we notice that there is regular, periodic, concentric structure with a preferred redshift spacing or interval, or delta Z value, between each shell of approximately 0.0246, or about 250 million light years. If we fill in the missing areas of the sky on the assumption that the distribution is more or less similar, we are in a position to get a look at how the whole 3D structure might appear as viewed from Earth. The first thing to notice is, if we looked at the universe from some point far removed from our location, we would not see the same concentric shell structure, which is directly contrary to the assumptions of the Copernican principle. In 3D, we can slice open the galaxy distributions almost as if we were looking at the layers of an onion, disclosing the concentric shell structure around us.
So every phenomenon that you see out there in the universe is all in concentric cells around where? The Earth. I mean, how do you avoid this evidence?
Whether it would lead to an Earth-centered universe in itself, I'm not that sure.
Now that is controversial because anyone in the standard cosmology community would not even entertain such a notion.
Cosmologists should be open-minded and not suppress, if you like, the exploration of non-mainstream ideas.
The oldest light in the universe, according to the Big Bang theory, is the cosmic microwave background, the leftover radiation from the Big Bang itself, the only source of radiation we've ever discovered that comes to us from all directions of the sky.
The cosmic microwave background is the afterglow of the Big Bang. It's the radiation coming at us from the Big Bang, the leftover radiation. It's amazing. In fact, it's highly visible in a sense, but it wasn't discovered until 1965 in New Jersey, of all places, by two people who didn't know what the heck they were doing, but they won the Nobel Prize anyway. But in fact, you've actually seen it. Well, if you've ever disconnected your cable TV, or if you're like me, old enough to remember before cable TV, when the stations went off the air at night, after the test pattern, there'd be static. And if you disconnect the cable on your TV, you'll see static. Turns out about 1% of the static you can see on your TV is radiation left over from the Big Bang.
This background radiation should be isotropic. It should define no special direction in the universe, and certainly not one related in any way to us. Max Tegmark decided to look at the cosmic microwave background in a new way. And he discovered something amazing.
I decided to look at the data in a different way by separating it into what we call spherical harmonics. And each one of those harmonics corresponds to a picture you can look at on your screen. And I wrote this computer program, and like 3 in the morning it was done, and I hit enter, and poof, up came a picture, and whoa. Crazy. I had typed in 2, which was the lowest one of these modes, and it didn't look at all like it was supposed to do. I had looked at this because there had been previous papers saying maybe there was something a little fishy about this lowest harmonic, but nobody had ever made a picture of it before because they couldn't clean out all the junk. And checked my program, there was nothing seemingly wrong with it. So I thought, I'm kind of tired, but I have to type in 3 and see what the next one looks like. And that one looked even more crazy. It would have this big band, like a pancake across the sky. And it was lined up with what came out when I had typed in 2. Like, whoa, what is going on here? So we mentioned this sort of in passing at the end of our paper, that there was this funny alignment which later got dubbed the axis of evil. And we did another paper and realized that it's actually quite unlikely that it's just a fluke. And then later on, other people, like Dragan Hutterer and many others, picked up on this and did much more careful studies and found that actually there was nothing wrong in my computer program, and the effect was there, and even more strongly so than we had guessed.
So they send up the satellite and they find out, wow, there's anisotropies out there. It's not smooth. Not only did they find anisotropies, what they found was that these anisotropies, these disturbances, these temperature disturbances throughout the universe were all pointing to the Earth.
This is, if you just look at the galaxies out there in the universe, it doesn't matter whether you look at them like this or whether you tilt your head like this or like that, because there is no special direction. There's no up or down in space.
One of the fundamental principles of cosmology is the Copernican principle that we believe that the Earth does not occupy a special position.
Yet, there is this very special direction imprinted in these baby pictures of the universe. And it's pretty clear now, since many different groups have hammered at this, that it's real. It's in there in the data. What's much less clear is what it means.
The cosmic microwave background alignments do not define a center, but instead an axis, a preferred direction spanning the entire universe. The fact that these alignments are correlated to our own neighborhood is highly difficult to explain from within the assumptions of Big Bang cosmology.
It is a strange thing how little, in general, people know about the sky. It is the part of creation in which nature has done more for the sake of pleasing man, more for the sole and evident purpose of talking to him and teaching him, than in any other of her works, and it is just the part in which we least attend to her. John Ruskin. In this offering, I will share reality, perception, wonder, archetype, and hopefully a sprinkle of wisdom regarding the Sky Luminaries. Many are looking to the horizon, to the shape, to computer screens, to other land, to mental models, but not many are looking up at what is actually real and observable. Most notable in the Luminaries' mysterium is what we call the Sun, an epic and enigmatic source of real cycles, real energy, and real wonder. There is nothing new under the sun. Truth is singular and eternal. The sun is a focal point of life-giving heat and light. Only a fool states they know what it is. the close sun within our realm makes one full westward revolution every 24 hours, spiralling out and gradually faster to the Tropic of Capricorn on the winter solstice, and spiralling in and gradually slower to the Tropic of Cancer on the summer solstice, thus giving us the seasons. Looking to the west, we can see a sunset move slightly to the right, curving around on its path. And close to the summer solstice, in northern Norway, we can see the sun never sets to the observer. Here is another way to view the summer solstice. The smaller dome here is a human's observable area, and the larger dome could be presented as a flat sky. This is still an unknown. Here is another way to look at the equinoxes. From Tenerife in June, the top is what the human eye observes, and below is what is really going on. The analemma is where one takes a photo or plot point of the sun at the same time of day, from the same location, over a year. This is from Hong Kong in the Northern Hemisphere, and there is a bigger loop for when the sun is in the Southern Hemisphere, because the sun covers more distance there in its orbit. This clearly shows that the orbit of the sun expands and contracts. It matters not if the analemma is taken from the equator or from the Southern Hemisphere either. The southern loop is always bigger, as one would expect. Here in Stellarium, I have set the time to 5 PM in Europe, faced southwest, and turned on the ecliptic, which is the sun's path. When we keep jumping 24 hours ahead, we can see the sun has completed one orbit each time, and in late May, we can see it's getting higher in the sky towards the summer solstice on the 21st of June, and then starts to go lower in the sky towards the winter solstice in December. Don't let anyone sell you the 23 hours and 56 minutes a day nonsense. In real life, as it shows in Stellarium, we can see only a section of the night sky. When we move, our vanishing point also moves with us, and therefore what we can see in the sky moves with us too. We know the sky appears to the eye as a dome, but this could be due to perspective. I mean, here it looks like the ground goes up and that the tracks go together, when we know these aren't true. The human eye's vanishing point shows us a visual reality that is not always objective. We simply have not unravelled the flat sky or dome mystery yet. This is all new. This awakening of true cosmology only made a comeback in 2014. The year I also first spoke out about it publicly. In many cases, we need to revel in the mystery, and enjoy the mystery. The sun comes into the observer's vanishing point. This is known to most as a sunrise. The sun goes out of the observer's vanishing point. This is known to most as a sunset. If we go up in altitude, the sun comes back into one's field of view as the vanishing point has increased. When the sun sets in Japan, it's at its zenith in Madagascar, and also rising in Florida. Some ballpark trigonometry shows the sun is around 2,000 to 4,000 miles away. Well, that is, if it is an actual thing within the rules of known physics, which it possibly isn't. Now, these sunrises and sunsets often appear as different sizes. This is due to one or more of the following: the observer's position, land contour, sea temperature, atmospheric haze, and atmospheric temperature. So how high is our sun? We have seen evidence of localized hotspots. This blue sky layer is around 15 kilometers thick.
I remember when I lost my mind. There's something so pleasant about that place. Even your emotions have an echo, so much space. Ooh. And when you're out there without care, was out of touch. But it wasn't because I didn't know enough. Just knew too much. That made me crazy. That made me crazy. That made me crazy. Possibly. since I was little, ever since I was little, it looked like fun. No coincidence I've come, and I'll die when I'm done. But maybe I'm crazy.
This puppy isn't 93 million miles away. The sun doesn't have flares, but it does have sunspots. Nobody knows what these are or what creates them. But they do help us prove that the sun above oscillates, which appears to the observer as rotation. The actual light of the sun does many wondrous and irrational things, near impossible to work out logically. Here is the model for sunlight observation for various months. Actual sunlight at any one time is never the same for two different observers. Sunlight has evidence of curve, bend, bulge, mystery, beauty and wonder. The reasons are unknown, and that makes so many uncomfortable. We don't even know if it is really an object. We do know it is a focal point of light and heat. Democritus, in BC, said a quote that will help us as we continue through the other luminaries. It will be apparent that it is difficult to discern which properties each thing possesses in reality. The moon is the other large luminary in the sky. It has always been an enigma. It has always been worshipped, and its energy through its mystical phases affect much life in this reality. A mystic once said, "Look at the moon in the sky, not the one in the lake." Another said, "Moonlight drowns out all but the brightest stars." A Taoist author once said, "The moon does not fight, it attacks no one, it does not worry, it does not try to crush others, it keeps its course, but by its very nature, it gently influences." The moon is the same size and distance as the sun, and follows close to the sun's path, the ecliptic. The moon takes about 24 hours and 51 minutes to complete a revolution above us, slower than the sun. The moon is always close to the ecliptic, within 5 degrees above or below. It also comes and goes, just like we saw with the sun. The moon crosses the sun's ecliptic approximately every 2 weeks. These crossings are known as lunar nodes. If it crosses the ecliptic at full moon, we have a lunar eclipse. If it crosses the ecliptic at new moon, we have a solar eclipse. Remember this for later. The moon takes an average of 29 days, 12 hours and 44 minutes to go through one lunar month, one lunar cycle. From new moon, through waxing, full, waning, back to new moon. Because of this motion, the moon has a point in time each lunar month when it is closest to the Earth, perigee. and a point in time where it is farthest from the Earth, apogee. The Sun moves faster than the Moon. The Sun catches up with it, creating a new moon, and then speeds ahead of it. More accurately here, we can see the lunar phases are caused by the relative geometry of the Moon to the Sun in the flat Earth sky. These two luminaries are linked by what one could call pranic, magnetic electro, or chi energy. The first quarter moon is when it is half illuminated, and occurs when the Sun and Moon are 90 degrees apart in the sky. At full moon, the Moon is fully powered and fully illuminated, when the Sun and Moon are 180 degrees apart in the sky. The Moon self-luminates and self-deluminates. It powers up and powers down. There is evidence to suggest this geometric relationship creates the tides in the oceans too, as salt water is ionized and can react to magnetic electro. Another way of talking about the motion of these luminaries is to say the Moon travels 14.5 degrees an hour and the Sun 15 degrees an hour. So the Moon loses 12 degrees a day on the Sun. People are okay that the Sun is self-luminating, so people should also be okay that the Moon is self-luminating too. A nice way to remember if the Moon is waxing or waning is if it is like a letter C or D. A cat goes, waning, and a dog comes, waxing. These phases can be known far into the future due to the Sun and Moon's constant speeds. This works as a geometric clockwork, a calendar in the sky so to speak. Chinese, Thai, Hindu, Islam and Hebrew calendars still today are linked to the Moon cycles, the lunar month. If one photographs the Moon 51 minutes later on successive days, note due to the Moon rising about 51 minutes later each day, over one lunar month it will trace out its own analemma. The Moon can be seen above in the sky at the same time in distant places. Depending on where one is on a line of longitude, depends on what degree of rotation the Moon will be. To a stationary observer, the Moon also appears to rotate as it moves from east to west in the sky. This is only due to perspective. The Moon is not actually rotating. It will appear to rotate one way until it is above one's head, and then the other way. Regardless of location, every human on Earth has only ever seen one face of the Moon. Therefore it is rational that it appears to many human subconscious and conscious mind as spherical. In a waning phase, the closer the Sun gets to the Moon, the more power, or self-illumination, the Moon loses. And when the Sun is very close to the Moon, it loses its power, it loses its self-illumination. The Moon disappears. Some say we should really see a black silhouette. We don't though, we see nothing, and can pick up nothing with cameras or telescopes. It's just not there. This new moon really could be just that, a brand new moon, and we will layer up on this information later. Then a few days after new moon, at the waxing crescent phase, one can see the slither become illuminated, and the moon starts gaining its power again. Even at other times during the lunar cycle, we can very rarely see something appear to go through the moon, and in this footage it is unknown if this is a star, wandering star, or high altitude drone. At other times, the moon appears as though the blue sky is coming through the moon, but the moon is higher than the layer of blue sky. So is the moon semi-transparent here? Is the moon not totally there in these instances? When the moon is half illuminated, is the other half there or not? Again, the luminaries' mysterium has not given us a clear and rational answer as yet. We don't know. We have to continue to revel in the mystery. We don't know what the moon is. We don't know what craters are. In truth, they are just different shades of light and dark. Worth noting though, that in the electric universe community, laboratory experiments using electric arcs by plasma physicist C.J. Ransom created craters. Is the mainstream story for the 22-degree halos another wild myth? It's almost as if the moon and sun are piercing into this reality, or piercing into a layer in our sky. Both look like spheres to our subconscious, but simply this cannot be so. The moon gives us energy for sure, but whether it is a projection, an actual object, or even an old malfunctioning sun, we don't know. The word eclipse comes from a Greek word meaning abandonment. Quite literally, an eclipse was seen as the sun on a solar eclipse and moon on a lunar eclipse abandoning Earth. The lunar eclipse is only possible exactly on a full moon, when the sun and moon are directly opposite, and also when the moon is at the crossing point of the ecliptic, at the lunar node, when H1 and H2 in the image are at the same altitude. This is all akin to a super tight and accurate astrological aspect of opposition. Any solar year has a minimum of 4 eclipses, 2 solar and 2 lunar, and it is possible to have up to 6 or 7 eclipses in a single solar year. The moon is full, fully charged, and then it loses power, preparing energy, retracting. Then it sparks, surges, pulses. The moon becomes reddish as it continues its potent energetic link with the sun. A pranic or magnetic electro handshake with the sun. Blinking, flickering. It seems to be a reset of sorts, or more wildly, a malfunction or false kickstart of an old sun trying to recharge itself, and then it regains power. The lunar eclipses are seen where it is night time, and over a massive land space with the same intensity. They last for a few hours, much longer than the minutes of a solar eclipse. The change in colour during a lunar eclipse is seen simultaneously by people in different continents, and because of this, the obstruction theory from old Vedic myth is impossible. The theory that it is obstructed by another celestial body, such as Rahu, Ketu, Shadow Planet, Mount Meru, Black Sun or Lilith, is easily debunked, as it would only be visible in a small location. You see, with this lunar eclipse, any obstructing body would be huge, many times bigger than the moon. The solar eclipse has caused fear and been associated with myth, legend and superstition throughout history. Even today, an eclipse of the sun is considered a bad omen in many cultures. Esoterically and astrologically, I would say never make a big life decision near or on an eclipse, only unless you really know what you are doing with bringing the energy down and harnessing it. Predicting eclipses has been going on for millennia too, as early as 600 BC by Thales. Saros astrology can predict eclipses, and this goes back to Chaldean and Babylonian astronomers. A solar eclipse is only possible exactly on a new moon, when the sun and moon are directly together, and also when the moon is at the crossing point of the ecliptic, at the lunar node, when H1 and H2 in the image are at the same altitude. This is all akin to a super tight and accurate astrological aspect of conjunction. Now, many strange humans think there is 93 million miles between these two luminaries, and one is 400 times bigger. This is where the moon is. It cannot be anywhere else. But as we saw earlier, the moon is transparent, stroke disappeared, at this time. We believe the moon is passing over the sun. It should be. But looking at these filtered images, nothing is there. It matters not what one does with telescope or imagery software, one cannot find a trace of the moon. It is as though the sun eats itself. It's really important you understand the moon is not there. Then you might wake up to the magic and mysticism of this realm we are in. Totality during a full solar eclipse can only be seen from a very small area on Earth. This area is usually about 100 miles or 160 kilometers wide, and about 10,000 miles or 16,000 kilometers long. Areas outside this track may be able to see a partial eclipse of the sun. This thin strip is pure flat Earth truth, as a shadow is never smaller than the object casting it. Many think the Vedic dark luminary of Rahu covers the sun. Rahu, the god of darkness, the black sun, the shadow planet. This cannot be true, as the total solar eclipse lasts for only a few minutes at any given place. Objectively, all we know is the sun appears to eat itself due to the pranic handshake. A resetting, a new sun cycle, a refreshed sun. There are three types of solar eclipse: partial, annular, and total. The difference between a total and annular eclipse helps to confirm that the moon moves closer and farther from us, perigee and apogee. I wrote a thesis in the Moon Book about whether the moon could be an old malfunctioning sun. Let go of old notions and listen to the logic. The moon is the same size and altitude as the sun. The moon travels in almost the same trajectory as the sun. The moon is a little slower than the sun. The moon's power and charge is directly linked by its geometry to the sun. Both affect plants and animals, and all life on Earth. Both have evidence of being magnetic electro in their nature. There are many ancient myths as to which sun we are in. For example, Aztecs say we are in the fifth sun, and my free moon book contains many other supporting myth, legend, and pantheon. The moon is awash with mystique, myth, superstition, and esoterica. The new moon is like a start of a wave, the start of new intentions. The full moon is like the crashing of the wave, and the waning moon is like the decay of a wave retreating. A healthy woman in her power has her menstrual cycle during or near full moon or new moon. It is more beneficial esoterically to fast or cleanse the days before a new moon. At full moon, the pineal gland opens more and the spiritual veil is thinner, so to speak. Most humans have dense energy and live in the five senses and personality matrix and are disconnected from the moon's energetic cycles. The moon phases also affect the planting of crops and plants and many other things.